So thank you for giving us a little bit of your time. Can you start briefly by talking about Novagold, where you operate, where you're based, how much revenue, and what are your main objectives for the coming year?
So Novagold is focused on the Donlin Gold project, which is located in Alaska. It is a 50-50 joint venture partnership with Barrick Gold, and it is a 40 million ounce deposit at 2.25 grams per ton with a mine life of 27 years. With production that would exceed 1 million ounces per year. It would be in today's sector would be the largest gold producing mine. It is predominantly permitted. We have our federal permits and the majority of our state permits in hand. It's on private land that was designated for mining with Indigenous partners, Chilista and TKC, that really take part in all of our activities throughout the different cycles and the different stages of the project.
Okay, so which partner did you say? Barrick? Yes. Barrick is doing the production. And what about Novagold? You're most of an exploration company?
So it's a development company. And we are traded on the New York Stock Exchange and on the TSX. The majority of our volumes is on the New York Stock Exchange. We are about a $1.1 billion market cap. Our shares are around 330 as of Monday, and the majority of the trading is quite liquid. We have about 2 million to 2.5 million shares traded daily.
Yes, I would say it's quite liquid. Yes. for mining company, right?
That's right.
And what is your how do you manage your cash flow, because you are engaged in quite big projects, especially in Alaska?
So because for Novagold the focus is solely on Donlin, we don't generate cash flow. We have our budget this year, for example, is 37 million. Our treasury is quite healthy. We have, as of the year-end results, we have 100 million of cash in our treasury. Yes. And we've been stewards of that capital that was entrusted to us by our shareholders. The last time we did a financing was in 2012. And so it's been quite a long time. We have really since then been focused on advancing Donlin through permitting and through various drill programs. So we find ourselves with a catalyst this year of finalizing the drill program we have underway right now, which is 15,000 meters focused on really mine planning. And then once we have that, we'll be making a decision on proceeding with an updated feasibility study.
The numbers that I have for the Donlin Gold project is that it requires a 3.6 billion. It's a 3.6 billion investment. Is it right?
It's a bit more than 3.6 billion. It's a 40 million ounce deposit that would require quite a substantial amount of infrastructure.
Yes.
As of the last technical report that was filed, the feasibility study that was updated in 2021, it's a $7 billion, over $7 billion undertaking on a 100% basis. So that would mean we would be responsible for our share. So over 50%. 50% would be over $3.5 billion would be our share of development.
How do you plan to finance it? Will you make another financing round, call to the market or something?
I think with the work at hand, a feasibility study will take us about 18 months to 24 months. It'll give us a good understanding for the costs and with a higher level of accuracy for what's to come in terms of development. And we would imagine doing that, the majority of which, to the extent that we can, with debt. And then some of it might end up being a project at the project level. That has yet to be determined. First, I think we have to complete the feasibility study and then make a decision on how to best fund that.
Okay. Well, we all know that Barrick is a bigger player in the field. Do you plan to leverage the strengths of Barrick and to offload some of the investments to this company, or do you plan to keep it to the agreed percentage, 50-50?
Yeah, I think it's really important for us to have that 50-50 true ownership, joint venture partnership. It gives us the flexibility. The value of that is worth a lot in our eyes. Our major shareholders, many of which who have invested for more than 12 years, want to see the benefit of that, and we wouldn't want to devalue our ownership in that.
I have made some research regarding Novagold, and I've heard, I don't know if it's true, there might have been some cost control and budgeting issues over the past years. And what measure is Novagold taking to control and manage gold, especially for this Donlin gold project?
So from a cost standpoint, our budget is approved. The LLC budget, the Donlin Gold budget itself, is approved at the board level. So that's, again, representatives from both Barrick and Novagold sit at the board and approve that budget on an annual basis.
There are no issues that you're aware of for keeping the budget because of new developments in this Donlin project?
There hasn't been any issues in terms of approving the budget.
Yes, okay. And I have a question for tax.
So the budget at the LLC level for Donlin is $43.5 million. So our share of that is half. So that's the budget that was approved for 2025 with a 15,000 meter drill program.
Are there tax and royalty considerations given the fact that the Donlin project is based in Alaska, and does it affect the financial model of your venture?
So we have two native corporations that are part of the project, and they will have benefits. You could consider them a royalty, a scaling royalty through different thresholds as we advance development. And a big part of that will come once we're in operation, and once we've had a certain payback, then that royalty reaches a certain maximum of 4%.
Okay. For this Donlin project, which we know is important for Novagold, so what are the main risks that you see in the upcoming months and even years? What are the main risks associated with the development of the project?
Well, as in any 50-50, you need unanimous approval to proceed at different stages. I don't see any major risks. We've received the majority of our permits, so there's always litigation is always a risk. It's something that we've mitigated by having a really extensive and transparent process to allow us to have a thorough record to defend and to help the agencies defend those permits. So that is always something that has been front of mind since we started permitting in 2012. Other than that, cost is always a risk, right? The cost of labor, the cost of development. It's an intensive capital undertaking because it's in a remote part of the state. With the new administration, they issued they issued an executive order.
It should be friendly to mining operations.
Yes, they're promoting development and also trying to find a power solution for the state to really encourage development. So all of these would be beneficial for the industry and potentially beneficial for Novagold, for the Donlin Gold project. But we're quite advanced. We're quite advanced as a development company, given that we have the majority of our permits in hand. So we've mitigated a lot of the risk that one would
have. Most
have.
of the risk is behind you.
That's correct. It's not to say that it's a capital-intensive undertaking, but we've mitigated many of the risks.
Okay. Once the production at the Donlin site is operational, do you plan to hedge some or all of the production of the gold production to mitigate the risks?
I think that's something that the owners will have to evaluate when the time comes. When
no decision has been taken regarding the hedge, because of course the price of gold is going up.
It's always something that we ought to consider as a group, but until we have the updated feasibility study, it's too early to tell. It's a decision you will take once you go to finance the development or to fund the development. Sure.
If I'm not mistaken, Novagold has not been distributing any dividends, at least as long as I've been a shareholder. Once the Donlin project again becomes operational, what will be the company's dividend strategy?
I think that's something.
If any.
Yeah, I mean, we're not cash flow positive currently, so it's
no,
not.
But I'm talking
but in the future, I think that's something for the company to evaluate at that time. For those that are looking for dividend paying companies, it's,
so you're a growth company. You're not a dividend company.
Exactly.
But I know that we know that. But is it on your mind? Do you plan to have a distribution ratio or something once the production becomes operational? We are talking, I don't know, 3-4 years.
I think the leadership of the company, that's something that will be part of the overarching strategy, meaning something that they will look at. I can't speak on behalf of what the decision will be, right? We have our major shareholders that have invested alongside the company, some of which for over 12 years, and they are front of mind when we make those investments decision as to why they're invested. They're really invested for the leverage to gold that they get through Donlin.
So the big management team, the management team has big skin in the game, you're saying?
Yes. And the major shareholders. So 70% of our shares issued and outstanding are represented in the top 10 shareholders.
Is it indiscreet to ask if you are also invested in the company?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When you're doing mining production structure, there are always some environmental issues. How does Novagold addresses this issue for the environment?
Yeah, maybe I'll let my colleague comment on this part.
Yeah. As Mélanie mentioned, we are federally permitted, and within some of those permits, we address a lot of the environmental issues that could be of concern for the project at a future date. But currently in Alaska, we have a lot of environmental initiatives taking place within the project area. So there's salmon smolt monitoring programs, there's historic placer mining activity that's taken place, and the Donlin team in Alaska has put a lot of effort towards the restoration of that area. It's just two examples of ongoing environmental initiatives that are taking place right now. So we do have an active effort in Alaska to mitigate some of the environmental impacts.
Okay. Do you make use of renewable energy sources or not yet? Or are you very dependent on oil?
If the renewable energy, it's of consideration. Currently, we're permitted for both diesel and for liquefied natural gas for the project, but it's something that we've taken into consideration as that area of the industry develops. It's something that could be of more interest, but at this time we're permitted for both diesel and liquefied natural gas to power the project itself.
Okay, thanks. One last question: What would you say for any French investors who might be curious to invest in Novagold? to make them to keep their interest in the company. I think you mentioned that this would be one of the biggest gold projects, at least in the region, or maybe more. Not. What?
Yeah, and I can let Mélanie add on to this later, but with the Donlin Gold Project, it's one of the largest undeveloped gold projects in the world.
Did you say in the world?
In the world.
Yes.
It's,
okay.
As Mélanie mentioned, it's 39 million ounces. The grade is double the industry average. The mine life is 27 years with the potential to extend beyond that. Currently, the resource is defined within a 3-kilometer radius of an 8-kilometer mineralized belt. So there is exploration potential beyond the current resource. I think the current gold price environment is a very positive thing for the sector and for investors.
If I may ask one last question, how do you explain that it has not been discovered before, and why? Is it a difficult part of the country, or why hasn't it been difficult? Why hasn't it been found before, since it's one of the largest deposits in the world?
Oh, it currently shows its potential. So we have 39 million ounces as part of the current. Well, it is the current resource, 39 million ounces. 34 of that 39 million ounces are inferred.
No, my question is, why is Novagold the first company to have discovered the place? Why wasn't it in production before? Because it's very large and it has such a big potential.
Mélanie, touch on
Yeah, I can comment on that because the history goes back to the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act. When in Alaska they redistributed land to open the North Slope to oil development. So they created 12 native corporations as a result.
Yes.
And these are run like corporations where their local stakeholders get dividends from the businesses.
Okay.
So they, Calista had set the land aside for mineral potential. Then they invited the companies in to come and develop the land. And over 20 years, exploration took place to define the 39 million ounce deposit. And so from that, it has taken all that time to get it to where we are today. On average, once a deposit is discovered, it can take up to 25 years to go into production, and that timeline has only grown with time due to permitting.
I heard 16 years, but yes,
we're at the 25-year mark, so we're not
the average
uncommon.
in America is roughly 15 years
Right,
to go into production.
and I think it depends on the size of the operation. Environmental considerations are critical. This is something that's very important to us, for us to approach this in a very responsible manner, and in collaboration with Calista and TKC, who are the landowners. And so we have worked hand in hand to advance these efforts in a way where it's sustainable, understanding that this is a generational operation. This is an operation that we believe, not very different to Nevada, will be around for maybe 100 years.
Okay.
We only have 3 decades of production, but you have a big district that has opportunities. And so we invest the time up front to be stewards of the land, not just for a profitable return. So that's really important to us.
That's why it takes. Okay, you also answered my question regarding ESG.
Yes, very important.
I guess Russia must regret having sold Alaska to the US a few 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay,
but it's the second largest gold producing state in the US after Nevada.
Okay.
Which is why I think the new administration wants to see economic development for the benefit of the people in the states and in Alaska particularly.
That's great. Thank you, Mélanie. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.